Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a really worthwhile disc of music by Elsa Barraine, a French composer who lived from, oh my God, could it be any tinier? It's unbelievable. 1910 to 1999. She had a long life and a very productive one. She spent most of her career in the French musical administration. She was an employee of, I think, French radio and television and stuff like that. And she was very well respected. Her father had been a cellist in the Paris Opera. She was half Jewish, which explains a little bit about what we're going to see here on this disc. She didn't write a ton of orchestral music, but she was a composer, I think, of great seriousness and integrity. And of course, they're recording her now because she was female. And as I've said a million times, great. It makes no difference whatsoever, because whenever we're exploring little-known music by whoever it is, 99% of it's going to be junk, and the rest is going to be good, and the good stuff is going to be as good as anybody's good stuff, irrespective of who the composer was, or what their sex, or religion, or ethnicity, or anything else. And Elsa Barraine was a good composer. I mean, from what I hear, our ears don't lie. So let's talk a little bit about what's on the disc. First, you have her second symphony, which is subtitled Voyage, Russian for war. All of the music on this disc, in some way or another, that was composed in 1938. So you see where that was going. And all of the music here, it seems to me, had some sort of, reflects in some way her experience of the war, except perhaps the last work, but then, it's of the same type. It's a 3-movement work. It's not difficult in the harmonic sense. It's difficult in the emotional sense. It's very, very gripping and turbulent in places and lyrical in others. If you think Honegger and that school, you may be close to what Barraine was doing. She also reminds me a little bit of Marcel Landowski. Remember him? He was head of sort of music in France, the cultural ministry or whatever, before Boulez took everything over. He wrote an opera about Galina Vishnevskaya, and his music is a little bit like this. It's not modernist for its own sake. It's not avant-garde, but it is modern music, and it is contemporary, and it's of its time in a good way. So after that, we have the Illustration Symphonique pour Pogrom d'André Spiro. This is a symphonic poem, only 8 and a bit minutes long. The title is Pogrom. Pogroms, what was happening to the Jews of Eastern Europe. And this was composed it was 1933, a fateful year as well, as anybody who knows their European history will readily acknowledge. In any case, it's not a violent work. It reminds me a little bit of Martinu's Memorial to Lidice. It's not a piece it's a piece of grief, of anguish, of great sadness more than anything else. And she's not trying to do a musical depiction of, Cossacks running around ripping up the mattresses like in Fiddler on the Roof. That's not what it is. Nothing like that at all. It's a still, dark threnody, and very beautiful in its way. And then the first symphony, which was composed in 1931. There we go. I think I got that. And that is really, it's a bigger work than the second. It's 25 minutes long. It's very ambitious for a youngish composer. A composer who's just embarking on the symphonic voyage at a time, by the way, when symphonies were kind of on the outs. And again, like the second symphony, it's a fully creditable effort. I mean, it's worth listening to more than once. It has arresting ideas, well presented, and it's exciting. And hey, what more can you ask for? You know, it's good stuff. Neoclassically oriented, and none the worse for that. And then the last thing on the disc is the Musique funèbre pour la mise au tombeau du Titian, the artiste. And this is from 1953. But it's quite similar in style and feeling to the other works. That is elegiac and funeral marchy. And, what can I say? She was not a happy camper for most of this music, and understandably so. But it's a very interesting introduction to a composer who I'd never heard of, and who I think is certainly worth getting to know. I was very, very impressed by these works, and you will be too, I guarantee it. The performances, by the way, are excellent. They feature the WDR Symphony Orchestra under Elana Schwarz, who certainly knows how to conduct this stuff. She does it very, very well, and from what I can tell, idiomatically and grippingly, and I thought the whole disc was terrific. I mean, the disc came out well after the download, and I had this on my phone, and I was playing it, going back and forth to work a few times just to see how it would sound. It sounds very good. The sonics are quite fine, but beyond that, I turned to it several times because Barraine was a composer who really had something to say, and I'm happy to encourage you to listen to what that was. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.